Good evening and welcome back to Vegas October 1 Sounds. Just a little quickie here on spectral analysis for radio chatter. And in reviewing the 308 single shots, I came across this little signal here, which is every couple of minutes the equipment on the officer, it will beep. And this is recorded by the camera. I think it's actually generated by the camera. And what's interesting, well, first off, let's start. This is the second to the final shot there. And that's what I was looking at when I came across this. But anyway, you'll notice here that we have a signal that goes right down there around 600 hertz. And all of a sudden it cuts off. And we get a sharp line. These are not gunshots, by the way. And yes, that's a train in the background. And then that signal, which was very bright there, becomes very dull here. And then there's another end to it, and it's a block of sound. It's a block of sound. And during that block of sound, you'll see that in a power spectrogram up here, that the background noise becomes more prominent. That is, the signal to noise ratio becomes less. Whereas over here, you'll see that the background sound, the signal to noise ratio, is better. And this is pretty typical of radio stuff. Down here you have just a different view on the power spectrogram where you can see that the background is substantially different. And that's one way you can quickly identify artificial or overlapped radio chatter. Let's switch over, well, before we leave this, basically what happens with this center log frequency plot here is that the sound of that made by I believe the camera, is so loud that the automatic gain control kicks in. It probably does it purposely, knowing that it's going to broadcast that signal. And so the volume of this sound in the middle here becomes substantially less compared to that. And we see it in the middle there that there's still the sound, but it's just not quite as prominent. Okay, let's go over and look at the Corey Langdon a section of the video. And here we see the same phenomena. We got stuff happening all around, but we end up with these blocks that start sharply, end sharply, and you'll see that the difference in the what is the background sound is quite different. And that's because this background sound here in this block is coming over the radio, which means it's a recording actually from somewhere else just broadcasting over the radio. And because of both the background and the microphone on picking it up and broadcasting and then coming through the speaker, it gets a lot noisier. This isn't always true, but it typically is true. And this is important when you try to separate out the audio on the camera from the cops, because they actually are two things going on at once. You have an independent radio system and an independent cop cam. And the radio is always there and typically is buried in the signal that's more prominent. That is, the things that are happening around the officer are very present and close and loud, and the radio is typically quite subdued. But in looking for the radio, all you have to do is look for this type of activity. And I'll go into it more in depth later, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. There's a couple of interesting things in looking at these 308 single shots that I wanted to bring to your attention. Grab you the next one.